Welcome to the Nausea River podcast. I'm Theo Morgan, and rehashing 2024 is going to embarrass me at some point. But let's go back for one more night. It was a good one, at least. November 27th, 2024, the long-awaited night for Blood Incantation to bring their full performance of Absolute Elsewhere to Boston. It was dry, chilly, and revealing all my poor choices as I shuffled up to Brighton Music Hall in thin tights and a miniskirt. No coat, just the velvet jacket I borrowed from my mum's closet. In case you're wondering, yes, I wanted to impress someone, but ultimately it wasn't the night for it. The show was announced well before the release of Absolute Elsewhere, and thankfully the album ended up being awesome, though also somewhat divisive. I had friends who missed the old Blood Incantation sound without all the 70s prog and krautrock mucking it up. And to that I say, quit your belly aching and listen to Mithras. Worlds Beyond the Veil walked so your favorite spacey death metal act could run. The old Blood Incantation albums aren't going anywhere anyways, and the new opened up a stargate into a genre fusion I never thought possible. I was fascinated by the blending of old and new, like Blood Incantation peeked into my soul and saw that, yes, my dad made it a huge point to introduce me to Pink Floyd and Tangerine Dream. Who else in metal was doing that? Would I even get an answer that night? Some things fit into place too well. I had actually honed my social skills to a point where I made it a goal to turn the person next to me in the queue into a friend. The young men in front of me were especially sweet, and lo and behold, they were in a local band too. Fossil. I had actually seen Fossil's logo that very day, as they put up a number of posters for a show at the Cantab Lounge. I took note of it because they were opening for Mollusk. I pushed business cards and the idea for a podcast interview onto them, and they were open and pushed it down the road. Though, I'll be clear, a lot of bands do this to me, sometimes forever. Months came and went. Fossil released a demo, which was actually really good. It introduced me to what they called Paleometal. A bit of a bullshit term, but one that was oddly fitting. A blend of classic heavy metal, prog, and psychedelic rock that reminded me a lot of one of my favorite boomer bands, the immortal Blue Oyster Cult. 70s and 80s nostalgia with the crisp, high-fidelity recording that 2025 could provide. I then saw Fossil live in February at the Middle East Upstairs, and it was an outstanding show, especially considering this was on a random weeknight. Singer Max Chow Gillette is very expressive and theatrical. The instruments are tight as hell. Is this really just some random college band? Bassist Jeff Tobiah was at the Alcest show a week later. I think other members of the band were too, but I did the heart hands gesture towards him. As a pal, I give that to everyone. But at long last, we found a time to sit down and chat with whoever would show up. All right, I'm Theo. Who are you two?
I'm Jeff from Fossil.
I'm Max from Fossil.
And what do you guys do in the band?
I'm the bass player.
I am the vocalist of the band.
Cool. Meet Max and Jeff, in their own words this time. Now, be forewarned, this is one of those episodes where it gets a little off the rails, as in, I think Tears from a Grieving Heart stayed on topic for longer, though about far more unhinged topics, which also tracks for hanging out with them in real life. Thank God, right? These are also my favorite kinds of interviews, so I hope you enjoy anyways. Yeah, so I've met you several times, only once at your own show, but it was a pretty good show, dare I say.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah, that was one of our best shows. I think we when we played the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a good venue.
That was our first Middle East gig. It was, I think just
really.
Yes.
Nice.
When we took stage, and we're in front of, I mean, not the biggest audience ever, but bigger than we anticipated. We kind of, that apart with just how much the Middle East sort of matters to us in terms of making a good first impression. We really wanted to make sure that we, played our asses off and put together like an awesome performance. So,
no, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to be a part of that. I do think it was because that was a week that was a bit empty on weeknight shows.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember anything else being scheduled, and I did want to see you guys, but
we're very grateful that it was a blast.
Yeah,
we had a blast.
I want to know, first off, when did you form the band? Like what year?
Wow. if you don't mind, this is a story I personally like to tell, is how Fossil came about.
Of course.
Because each member has their own little distinct thing. So if you didn't know already, we all went to Tufts.
Let's go Bows.
Yes. So
Okay.
we've been in the area for quite some time. So Brandon, the guitarist, he lived in the room next to me our first year at Tufts in the same dorm building. And I want to say it was pretty much like not even 2 weeks in to us having moved in. He was just playing guitar with his door wide open, and I like walked by and I thought he was playing Guitar Hero. He was hitting all the notes and he was sounding really good, and I looked, I'm like, oh, he's playing an actual guitar. So it was awesome that was sort of my first like musical introduction to Brandon. And then after that we just started listening to a bunch of music since then. Kind of we had influences on each other. At that time I was in the midst of a pretty big like hip hop phase, and he's been into rock and metal his whole life, so he was able to introduce me to that, and that's sort of where my love for metal exploded, was getting exposed to him, and then just other people on campus and learning more about the newer scenes in metal, and also going back to classics, Black Sabbath and Megadeth, Slayer, those sorts of things. Fast forward, I'm finally learning guitar my sophomore year, and there's a bunch of songs I kind of want to learn to play, and I also like I like experimental music quite a bit too. Another thing that kind of developed since being in school, and I was like, oh man, that guitar part sounds really good. That guitar part sounds really cool. And then Brandon would be like, no, that's the bass. Like it was just put through so many effects that I couldn't tell. And I was like, why can't I really get it to sound that way? And he's like, because it's bass guitar. I'm like, all right. He says, well, if you play bass, then we can start a band. And that's sort of how that started. And that was sophomore year, right before the pandemic hit.
Okay. So I can kind of gauge your age now.
Yes. Yep. There you go. Oh wow, I just totally doxed it. Oops, that's my bad. But
yeah, and also like I'm surprised people are still playing Guitar Hero then, because it feels very, very much from like when I was in high school. And for context, I interview my subjects with the camera on for both sides, and Max produced a Guitar Hero controller out of thin air. Crazy.
He didn't even have to get up from his seat.
Yeah, exactly. I reached over. I have this on my computer. I have a dongle that switches the Wii tar.
Oh, it's the Wii one.
I switches it to.
Oh, that's what my brother had.
We have
again. I'm like 6 years older than you, and sometimes in terms of video game trends, that's like 2 generations.
We don't mess around with Guitar Hero. Joe, our drummer, certainly doesn't either.
Yeah.
In video games either, and that's something we can.
But I always like the two of us felt weird because like we only had the Wii. And he had to play like Wii Guitar Hero and Wii Call of Duty, which is real.
Hey, here's the thing. Hey, the Wii Call of Duty game, Modern Warfare 1 on the Wii. I forget there was some subtitle or something, but that's a solid game.
I think we had Black Ops for the Wii.
Yeah, Black Ops came out on the Wii. I think Black Ops 2 was on the Wii U. We have and I'm putting this on the official ledger so everyone knows. I think we have 7, 8 Wiis in the house.
I believe so.
It's just it's an addiction. The Wii is certainly. I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that the Wii came up at some point in this conversation. I mean, we were going to bring it up ourselves, but no, the Wii is still the perfect party console. We very much assert that. It's still the console that we play the most out of any console, really, and we have pretty much every console in the house.
That's very interesting to hear, because like if someone says they played the Wii, I can carbon date them.
No, I play the Wii currently.
Yeah.
And I played the Wii.
I'm not saying it was a bad console or anything. It's just it was a moment in time.
No, exactly.
Absolutely. That's the charm of it, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you can like cut me open and like look at the rings inside of me, and it'll show like, oh yes, played Super Mario Galaxy, on launch day.
No, I do think it's a good party console, because like I was staying a few years ago. I was staying in a cabin with some friends, and they brought like their Joy-Cons or whatever it is for the Switch, so we could do like Just Dance and golf and all that stuff. Um, I don't know. I didn't love it. I
Here's the
like
thing.
the Wii controller does feel pretty nice though.
Exactly. It's incredibly intuitive. And I mean, part of the big marketing push for the Wii and the reason why it's the second most successful console, third most successful console of all time behind, I think, the Switch, just to clip the PlayStation 2. Because the PS2 sold a lot because it was advertised mainly as like, yes, it's a DVD player that also plays games. So if you're going to spend $250 on a DVD player, why not spend $300 and get a PS2? But the
Mhm.
Wii is so incredibly intuitive, and the reason that it sold so well was because Grandma can figure out how to use a Wiimote. Like
Mhm.
she knows how to like wiggle it, and play tennis. She understands. She can intuit that pretty easily. And I think that that's absolutely part and parcel of why it's been so successful and remains such a popular party console.
Wii Fit too, honestly.
Yep.
I think its influence on Wii sales is kind of underrated. There wasn't
Yep.
nobody was able to meld console gaming with fitness like
Yeah.
like like Wii Fit did at a time. And then that's when we got like, oh, now there's Connect for the Xbox. Now there's these, oh, I forget what the name of them are. The PlayStation controllers.
PlayStation Move.
Thank you. Yes,
I
the
didn't even
PlayStation,
know about the PlayStation one.
the glowing orb on it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Motion control earlier with like the eye toy on the PlayStation 2. That was like games where it would vaguely you could vaguely see yourself, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of wax on and wax off, a lot
Yeah.
of wax on, wax off. But yeah, the Wii is very innovative in our eyes.
Yeah, I think I only know about the only one that I think kind of survived, like at least in my head, is the Kinect, besides
Mhm.
the Wii. And that's because Xbox uses that bootleg Windows and like infrastructure. And there's one guy who like mocapped his homemade horror film using a Kinect,
That's badass.
Wow.
which is I gotta respect the no budget grind because he probably had that already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
the capability. I like that we're getting fossil music video ideas from that.
Exactly. I mean, we're no strangers to like using like jailbreaking our own consoles. So
Yeah.
we get it.
Yeah, we're frequenters with the Mario Kart custom track C2GP. You get like 200 plus community made courses and a bunch of mods. It's a lot of time. I mean, sorry, it's a lot of fun.
So getting back on topic, allegedly, so would you say that Fossil started like around that pandemic time?
Yeah. So I'll jump back into that one. I had a Spanish class with Joe, the drummer,
Hmm.
and one of the first things he said to me was an icebreaker. I think on day 2 of class, just pair up with somebody sitting next to you. He turns to me and he goes, "Me llamo Joe y me gusta la música metal." And I'm like, "All right, we'll take it." For those of us who are not particularly fluent in Spanish, he said that he likes metal music. So I was like, "All right, this is our guy." And I had him come over to the dorm to do some like group work for Spanish. And that's when the first sort of loose talks about getting, jamming out, where we're sort of coming together. Um, and then we sort of finalized that once the pandemic started getting less scary. And it was, I think, the first like party. There were like maybe 9 or 10 of us, like at the tail end of 2020. This guy came along and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a vocalist." Those were all the pieces. So I think our first jam session was either in November, December that year, or like January, February of 2021. But generally speaking, like we didn't really start playing until 2021. So
And did you like have the name finalized by then?
yes,
I think it
Okay.
was before I got there.
but yeah, Brandon had the name down, I think, for quite some time. Um,
So by the time that you had formed Fossil and had the name, would you say that you sounded anything like you do now?
it's complicated. The really quick answer is no. But some of the songs we still play to this day, like pretty much most shows are some of the first songs that we've written.
Okay.
Um, but we've gone in like a lot of really crazy directions with it. Namely, I mean, like eventually we tuned down to E flat, and then we started writing stuff in like drop C sharp because um, a lot of like the artists that we kind of wanted to sound like, and we like a few of us enjoy the most, had that like drop D sound. I'm thinking to like bands we frequently cite in terms of influences, like doing that E flat or drop C sharp will be like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Tool, um, those sorts of bands, like other proggier, doomier bands too, like even Black Sabbath in some regards. But um, so I don't think our influences have really changed. And yeah, like I said, there are a couple songs that have um, stayed in rotation for we're approaching 5 years, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But the stuff we've been writing recently, it's like day and night how much better we've gotten at
Yeah,
it.
I think that's the main thing. We've just gotten so much better at songwriting and song construction. Um, and I think that we're really quite happy with what we're doing now. Because I mean, we've all sort of grown up
Mhm.
together as musicians, and like our chemistry has continued to grow and change over time. And each of our individual like acumens as performers have grown over time. So yeah, I think that's kind of it.
Yeah, as I say, like I think stuff like some of the stuff we've written recently has gotten crazier, it's gotten heavier, but more importantly, they do sound like, you know, actual kind of like not thrown together jam songs. They actually sound like pieces, um, which will be cool. And it's just a matter of, you know, ironing out the kinks, making sure we're satisfied with everything we put into it, and then getting it out. This year, I mean, we're actually we've been kind of rethinking how we want to approach, um, sort of like release scheduling and rollout and stuff. So, I mean, like especially with the importance of social media and promoting singles and stuff. It's as cool as it'd be to be like like an album band. Um, that was looking maybe 2 years ago like the next step, but now we want to sort of like reshape everything, right? Like when will the album come out? What do we want to do about the album? Is the soundtrack? I mean, sorry, is like the track list going to look the same? What do we do ahead of time? What do we do after? Those sorts of things like that. Those pieces still need to get put together. But we're going to make sure that anything we actually do release is going to sound like, we want it to sound huge. We want it to sound unique. And we really want to make sure above all else that we're like fully proud of it. And like, we're proud enough, obviously, of the stuff we have put out to be able to release it on streaming platforms. But we want to have like, and with it's been the case with some of the stuff we released recently, is we really want to feel like really genuinely fully proud 100% of what we've done, what we've constructed.
So you mentioned some influences, especially like with your tuning, like a lot of newer. I know, like I should. Someone's gonna correct you if I say that Tool is a newer prog band. Be like they've been around for 25, 30 years. Um, but newer prog bands and Black Sabbath. When I listen to your music, like it sounds like something you could have plucked out of the 70s or 80s, but also sounds pretty 2020s. I think like production wise and stuff. Do you have like particularly old school tastes that have influenced that?
I mean, I certainly yeah, I think that we absolutely have a kind of old school mentality when going into this. We're very much influenced by, the real progenitors of heavy metal, very much influenced by Sabbath, Priest, Dio, any of those other legends. As far as how it like influences our songwriting and song construction, we're really trying to blend those two, like the sort of the heft of a lot of like classic rock and early metal, with more new school progressive tendencies. But yeah, certainly we are. We're old heads. We're
Yeah.
unks. Yeah.
And of course, my burning question, how big of Blue Oyster Cult fans are you?
I rock with Blue Oyster Cult. I don't
Okay.
really think I've explored their discography all that much outside of what is that album? Is it Don't Fear the Reaper? The album with
Agents
the
of Fortune?
yeah with the cards. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I mean, that
uh
one's a classic. The one before it, Secret Treaties is probably my favorite in their discography.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think Brandon would be the better one to have the conversation with about.
okay.
I'm trying to think. Not that he's the biggest Blue Oyster Cult guy ever, but he's definitely like I think out of the four of us, I think he'd be able to provide the most knowledge. And I mean, I will say like we have covered Godzilla.
Okay,
that was
that's fair.
yeah, that was one of our staples when we were at Tufts playing house shows. We did this like really kind of slowed down version that sounded extra stonery. It was pretty fun.
Oh, that actually just sounds really good. Like, if
Yeah.
you can get the license to release that, like, and maybe like refine it to like what your standard is now. It's not like it doesn't sound, I would say it sounds a ton like a stoner song, but I don't think it would take that much to get there either.
Yeah, I mean that opening riff, you just, slow it
Yeah.
down. Uh,
Like back in 76, that would have been, it's probably like the heaviest thing you heard all year.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, while smoking like the dirtiest of weed,
Yeah.
the dirtiest of basements, listening to that. That must have been incredible.
I know. I know the time, like, yeah, the world you grew up in no longer exists, but that's also like my parents' world. So yeah, I'm sure my mom and dad did some of that. Yeah, and like I've seen the concerts like that you've attended that I've seen you at, stuff like Blood Incantation and Alcest, like especially Blood Incantation. They're good with blending some 70s sounds with metal.
Oh,
Um,
sir.
is that some kind of goal of yours?
Oh man, I mean, Blood Incantation is probably my favorite death metal band, and for me personally, I've always been a huge fan of like outer space-y sounding.
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of outer space.
Um, oh yeah, outer space is
I
pretty
look
good.
at the stars, I'm like sick.
Yeah, no, literally, that's I actually do like astronomy quite a bit too. That'll be one of my things when I'm at work and I'm really bored is I'll learn about distant galaxies and weird like quantum mechanics y stuff. It usually leaves my brain immediately, but I just like finding new things just to temporarily learn about. Um, because there's a lot. But so when it comes to music, yeah, obviously they're sort of outer spaciness when it comes to artistic direction and also just like even riff construction and just like overall ambience. They have it on lockdown, and they create some seriously kick-ass stuff with it. Um, I'm trying to think of
You like Tangerine Dream?
it was a very cool inclusion. It was super interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because like my dad really likes Tangerine Dream, and he would play that for my brother and I when we were young. So it
Yeah,
was very weird to see it come back in the form of Blood Incantation.
Hell
And
yeah.
I could not turn him on to the album by saying that though. He thought it was a fun fact, but it's the growly stuff. You can't do it.
I mean, yeah, the tablet 2 for the message. I mean, that was something I tried to tell my dad about as someone he grew me up on classic rock and like a little bit of like 80s 90s stuff. But I told him I'm like this song has this insane passage that's quite literally from the Pink Floyd textbook. Um, and yeah, and then I told him about the Tangerine Dream thing too. Um, and he said it was awesome, but he didn't like the death metal parts. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
and I had the same experience showing my dad Opeth. But the thing about Opeth is that they do have full-on prog, clean singing, not
yeah,
really metal albums. And he loved Heritage. He thought it was like one of the best albums of 2013 or whatever year it was.
Brandon is also the resident Opeth fan,
I
which
I figured someone had to
No,
be.
I rock with Opeth. I like Opeth quite a lot. What's ironic is that Brandon didn't like Opeth, and then Tori and I, my Brandon and I, like, we debated over that constantly. He was like, "Oh, Opeth, they're such snoozers," and then finally, we get him to start enjoying it. But which I was glad about, and now he's a bigger Opeth fan than I am. I'd say I rock with him. I think that Michael Ackerfeld is just like such an incredibly talented vocalist and performer. I think that, like, I mean, as far as like my vocal performance goes and who I draw influence from, I'm greatly influenced by artists who have versatility,
Mhm.
and in being able to do like clean and dirty vocals, or just sort of modulate the human voice in like unique and interesting ways. I mean, every singer wants to be Mike Patton. Um, I certainly do.
All right. So you label yourselves as Paleometal. What does that mean to you?
we kind of hint at this anytime we try to describe paleo metal and like in like PR stuff, but it's basically yeah, kind of exactly what you've discussed, sort of where it starts. The root of it comes from 70s hard rock and metal, and then we try to meld that with futuristic sounding prog, and you can't really tell that too much on some of our first releases, but with this demo tape we dropped recently, I think it that comes through a little bit more clearly.
Really
As
does.
we want to give it a bit more of a modern edge. But you can, like, at its core, when it comes to you know riff writing and um, some of its, I guess, textual ideas, especially with Brandon's tone, is it's supposed to mostly sound, you know, have that, sort of classic, like, for lack of a better word, uh, like power and velocity, I guess. Um, and it's a whole mix of things that we kind of don't want it to be confined to, particularly just classic rock and metal, and particularly just prog metal, right? You know, we have grungier songs. We a lot of our stuff is, mathy and will involve odd time signatures and stuff. So um, it's kind of almost like there's undertones of it that are very consistent um, with those two, but it takes everything into account and just sort of molds it into a ball.
Cool. Um, I know that, like, image-wise, you use a lot of imagery of, like, fossils and dinosaurs. I guess it comes with the territory, but, like, what does that mean to you?
Oh, man. Uh, I mean, dinosaurs are awesome.
Yeah.
They're kind of irresistible. It's a pretty universal love of humanity. Is everybody finds it, uh, one of my main principles, especially like when it comes to museums and stuff, is I typically it's like the older the cooler, right? Like how is this maintained its you know structure and story so well over time? And I mean, I don't want to draw any like necessarily too direct parallels with the music, because I think it's a little bit hard to bridge
I
exactly
mean,
like where the dinosaurs come into
I mean,
play.
I think
But
that there's just such there's such weight and such mystery to the pre-human world. Um, I mean, for as much as we can, extrapolate about what exactly went on, there's only so much that we can do. I mean, I'm no paleontologist, but there's only so much information we can glean about the ancient world through these fossils, which are effectively like messages from the past. And I think that, we absolutely play a lot you know, in mystique and in mystery in our music. So I think that could be a pretty potent parallel between, fossils and us is, they're keys to unlocking grand historic mysteries. And I don't think we're quite there yet. Eventually we will be.
I think you need
But
to work with blood incantation on that.
exactly, if we need to build giant, foam pillars with like, ancient dinosaurs and ancient aliens on it, like I'm all for it. I can get
Yeah,
I
I
can
think like maybe the props from the Absolute Elsewhere tour will just like be on an auction site somewhere.
Oh,
With
okay.
a good paint job, no
Yeah.
one will know the difference.
exactly, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's might be why I was like pointing towards Blue Oyster Cult a lot because I just think like I look at your merch, I think of the album Cultosaurus Rex. Cultosaurus erectus, actually. It's a good spin, but also not my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album, so ultimately I don't think about the correct title a ton. And we get other things wrong too. Godzilla was off Spectres, not Agents of Fortune. And thinking about it a little, Spectres is the better album of the two. Opens with Godzilla, closes with Nosferatu. What more could I want, really? We do describe the cover a little bit in dialogue because it's very weird, but from a distance, yes, it looks like a T-Rex skull.
Oh yeah,
oh my
that's there.
goodness. Wow. Yeah.
Kind of looks like a big old piece of bread.
It looks like my sourdough when
Exactly.
I left it out for 2 days by mistake.
Yeah, the SCOBY or whatever.
Yeah, um
That
that was like
rocks.
that got a little too ripe.
The little, I know, I'm noticing the little rocket ship now. Yeah, this is kind of like perfectly represents, uh,
Yeah,
like,
I'm also glad it was made in 1980 because otherwise it does kind of look like drippy AI nonsense.
A little bit, yeah,
I,
Yeah,
but
but like I know it's too old for that.
thank
yep.
God.
Yeah, no, this is super neat. I can see the parallels here for sure.
So you've had some recent gigs, like in the past, we'll say 3 to 6 months.
Plenty, yeah.
I think the two that interest me the most recently played Sustain the Sound. Um, I wasn't there, but looked sick. How
It,
was it?
it
It
was
was
it was amazing.
it was yeah, it was really, really, really fun. Maybe the most fun
Yeah,
gig.
it was such a blast. To the uninitiated, it was Sustain the Sound put on by Sustainable Swaps, who are a local, well, not just local, they're in a couple of areas, but like a clothing swap organization, and they put on a lot of really cool events. And one of them was Sustain the Sound over at Warehouse 11 in Somerville, right in our neck of the woods. We sent it there. There was like a little application. There was like a voting thing, and we managed to make the final four. And the energy in that room was incredible. It was one of the most fun shows we've ever played, maybe the most fun show I've ever played. Um, and really, really great turnout. There's like 130 plus tickets sold, probably one of the bigger crowds we've ever played to. And I mean, so much of performance is sort of like bouncing off the energy that the crowd is giving you. I certainly um, rely a lot on the energy from the crowd. So having the stuff we were putting out given back to us in spades was just incredible, and it was really nice. I got my younger sister to come out to it because we play a lot of clubs that are 21 plus, so she came out with her whole soccer team.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness.
it was really really fun.
I thought that was your girlfriend.
No, that's my
And I'm like,
babysitter.
oh, you have such a I was thinking like, what a good partner.
No,
Wow.
oh my gosh, no, this is my younger sister, my flesh and blood. But no, it was fabulous, and by the grace of God, we ended up winning, which was
Yeah.
incredibly heartening, and
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
I
didn't
will
win, I might not bring it up.
I will say another thing about the event was, I mean, all the bands got voted in, so you knew there would be draw and appeal, but man, they all killed it. And I was a little scared. I can't lie. Before, or I mean, pretty much up until we were announced.
Yeah, exactly. I was
Uh,
shaking in my boots too.
it was crazy. They all
Yeah.
put on like absolutely killer performance. Very fun, and that was part of the thing that contributed to the fun of the night. Is there was like a really good variety. Like Makeup Palace, they're a big deal for Boston. Killed as they usually do. They have their fans too. It was they put on a very very sick performance, and their music rocks. Jam Witch.
They were super fun. They were very like very very jammy. I mean, as in the name. I mean, jam bands are very much in right now. A lot of
Yes.
bands like King Giz, they're incredibly jammy.
Mhm.
Jordy Griep, who
Yeah, that was like I had listened to the new sound far too many times.
oh god, it's
No
incredible.
one prepared me for it being like a 3-hour jam
Yeah,
concert,
no, they
and I was
turned
in my
bongo.
worst shoes for it.
Oh no, they turned Bongo Season, which is like a 2.5 minute song on the studio track, into like a 28-minute long jam session. It
It
was
was
spectacular. I had such an amazing night.
I
Uh,
know that like people were talking about the 20-minute bongo season jam in Q, and I'm like, knowing Jordy Griep fans, I'm like, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be
no,
some
exactly,
fandom bit. And no,
yeah,
it was even better than they said.
and doing a little jam to Spain by Chick Corea was a real nice nod too,
Yeah.
and the Latin song as well was super fun, super energetic performance. Yeah, big ups to Jordy Griep and the whole New Noise band, like a new sound band. They're spectacular. But yeah, jam bands to that end. Jam
Mhm.
bands are very much in right now. I mean, our forefathers had, the Dead and then later Fish, and now we have, Jordy Griep and King Giz and Jamwich. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were spectacular.
Yeah.
And genres aside, my dream tour now is Jam Witch and the deathcore band Slam Witch.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
If I like had talent as a promoter, I'd I'd be like on my knees begging both bands.
you can do it. You got connects. You got connects on the
I
podcast.
do. I have connects to Slam Witch. I don't know the folks in Jam Witch, but I'm sure they are wonderful.
Yeah, that tour sounds like
Yeah.
it'd be awesome to
It
see
sounds
you.
like it could actually work on like my dream tour, which does involve you guys. It would be Fossil, Cro-Mags, Primitive Man, and Queens of the Stone Age.
That
The
would be
Back to History tour.
I think as long as we're opening for Cro-Mags, because I'm gonna die in that pit.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
after
think just
after
like
every show.
on name recognition, you would be the opener.
No, exactly.
And
No,
then
but
you get to die in the pit, and then
no,
you get to
exactly.
watch the crowd
I
clear
die
the
in the
fuck
pit for the
out
Cro-Mags.
for Primitive Man, because
Yep.
and then you actually get up front for Queens of the Stone Age.
No,
Yep.
I'd
Because
I'd
everyone
be I'd be
cleared
I'd be
out.
watching I'd be watching from heaven. Or well, fingers crossed from heaven. After that first set, after just getting my neck obliterated, trying to stage dive to We Gotta Know.
Oh my God.
One day.
Yeah.
We we've played Crazy Bills before. Like other like jazzy bands. There's one where we played with like screamo bands, and then at the end there was a rap set.
Oh,
Um,
that was such a fun. That was out in Salem at an arcade, at
that,
Bit
that
Bar
at Bit
Arcade.
Bar, at Bit
That was
Bar.
such an awesome show.
Salem has some of the best venues, I can't lie. Like, you
Yeah,
know
That was
what?
so
I know that saying like, oh, Coda is such a great venue is like such a normie answer. But the thing is like there's no other place you're gonna get sushi rolls and listen to some thrash metal.
yep, yeah,
besides Market Basket when I'm blasting
What do you free the
blasting Power
lobsters?
Trip, yeah, looking at the lobster tanks.
Yeah,
Ooh,
and then you free the lobsters. They'll hear
exactly.
their first thrash metal, probably their
yeah.
last too.
I'm gonna be like fucking like Paul Atreides on like the sandworms, but on just like a series of lobsters.
Oh man, I lost my train of thought just thinking of that.
Keep
Um,
thinking about it.
oh my God, yeah. Um,
But
oh,
yeah,
but yeah,
no.
I mean, Salem rocks. The do you know Allie from Cape Crush?
Not really.
Um, she helped organize. I don't know if you heard about Moon Over Salem.
No, a little bit.
Yeah, it was like a mix of like I'm trying to think like emo rock, punk, pop punk, rock metal festival that they had in September. Brandon and I we volunteered for it. That was really cool, and they involved Kodo, Bit Bar. There's a theater inside the YMCA. They took out a space. Where I forget what the name of the theater was, but there was a movie theater right near the center of town there. They rented a theater for that. It was a really cool event, and now they're opening up, or they just recently opened Moonbase One. I'm not sure if you heard about that.
Not yet, no.
So it's an all ages dry venue. They just started doing shows like within the past few weeks. We're hoping to play.
Yeah. No,
Later.
that's interesting because like I do want to get in touch with like dry venues or dry promoters because I have a big episode in sobriety coming. And I think it's good to have those kinds of spaces. And also like I think all ages spaces are important because I remember being a teenage metalhead.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm unfortunately a goody two shoes rule abider, so I never use a fake ID. I just said it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I get you, but I do think it's really valuable to have those dry spaces.
Hmm.
As someone who can't drink medically,
Okay.
either medically or by choice, it's cool to have those spaces for people who might not be, particularly comfortable with like having alcohol around.
Yeah. And I want and I would like to see it extended beyond just straight edge hardcore people. And I love them, but
Oh, exactly. Yeah,
it is just one scene out of many, many genres.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other gig I want to talk about, some months back, I remember we were talking about this while waiting for Blood Incantation. You played opening for Mollusk, and like I think that interests me because they're relatively in Boston local terms a pretty big name.
So we organized. We got a hold for the Cantab Underground, which mixed feelings about honestly.
Okay.
Organizing it was a huge pain, but so we asked like, I mean, there's a whole multitude of names we asked just from going to these shows. We just started really going to these shows the past year or so in the wake of us starting to play shows again, just to get a feel for the local scene. And yeah, Mollusk was super fun. They were one of the first ones we reached out to. Um, we we were supposed to play, Lacquerhead. Lacquerhead was also supposed to be on that bill. Um, they had to bump off like I think
Like morning of.
yeah like I think like the
Mhm.
day of. But so that was we had assembled that just from kind of being a familiar face at these shows and just like you guys rock, we'd love to play with you. And luckily here with this like sort of sphere that we're in here with local metal. No, we're really thankful for guys like Adam and Hank, who do it for the love of the local scene and are able to hop on bills like this where we just kind of throw something together.
Mhm.
They can't have. Adam did per usual. Adam does awesome art. So we had a kick ass flyer
Yeah,
for
because
two.
I remember seeing the flyer around.
Yeah, there was one night it was so windy. I had my roll of tape. It was on the way to Animals as Leaders, I think.
Yes, it was.
It was
Oh,
on the way.
I missed that show. I'm so
I
mad.
I walked from our place right here, like hit Union, hit Inman, hit that intersection by Coriana, then went into Central, started putting them up. Um, I actually went in. I asked because they seemed in Central like they were really on high alert with flyers. I
Mhm.
actually went into Cheapo and asked them like where I could put them up, and he like one of the guys recommended. I think there's a bagel shop that's like covered in flyers, and then there's a place closer to the can tab too that we could have put 'em up. But he looked at the poster. He's like, "Oh, we'll put one up too." So having Adam like as a resource to provide some like really really awesome art was helpful too. Um, but yeah, no, it was a super fun show, and I'm really hoping we get to play with uh, guys like Mollusk again.
Yeah.
In the very
Yeah,
near
forget
future.
about this. How's the Animals as Leaders show? Because I
That
wanted to
was
go to that. It sold out, and I ended up just dog sitting for my dad while he basically like took a day trip for his birthday.
really cool. I really like the Joy Motion. Um, I I'm trying to think. I mean, Tosin Abasi is one of my favorite musicians. It was my first time seeing them, so I was really, really excited to be in. And like they usually split up the side, like the band, like they'll have Matt in the middle, and then they'll
Mhm.
have Tosin on one side and Jose on the other. And so I didn't know. I just happened to be on the Tosin side, so I was like really close to him.
Yeah, it's always good when you end up on the right side of the stage, like for whoever you like the best.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if do you guys listen to Boris at all?
Yes.
Yes. Were you at the show in
I
October?
wasn't. There was something that came up, some other
Okay,
stuff.
it was a Monday night, so I don't blame
Yeah.
you but it was one of the best shows I'd ever been to, with one exception, like with one caveat. I just went towards stage left, didn't think much of it. Was not on the Wada side of the stage. I wish I was on the Wada side of the stage, like, because she's perfect. And like I really liked her outfit that tour.
Amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, I love Boris. I love that album. What's the album that's their big album that the cover art is is similar to the Nick Drake album. Um the one that Hazy Jane is on. I know the Nick Drake album, but I forget. It's the one the blue album with
Oh,
the green.
it's
Oh,
like Akuno no something.
yeah, Akuma no Uda, yeah, that album.
Yeah,
That album is spectacular. Like I
yeah,
was listening
Akuno.
it just to go to show like how insufferable I've been about music for so long. I was bumping that and I was bumping Sun when I was like 14 years old.
Yes, so was I.
Yeah, just like
I
yeah,
remember like I got into Sun first, and it was ironically, um, and it brainwashed me into actually liking Drone.
yeah.
Because like
Sun,
people like
Earth
Sun is
Two.
very divisive, and like I feel like in the 2000s, in ye old times, it was a lot more
Before time.
divisive. Like I would see a lot more people making fun of them, and I don't think they'd dare to do that now, because you like Greg Anderson and Stephen O'Malley, like they've cemented their legend status. And they've
Yeah,
collaborated with a lot of bands that like the naysayers liked, so you
exactly.
can't say
Like
much.
I think about how brilliant that like Soothed is with that they did with Scott Walker. Scott Walker is one of my absolute idols. Like
I was just thinking of their album with Oliver.
oh that too.
That's one of my favorite. Like their collaborations with Oliver and Boris, so that's how I found out
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Boris.
No, yeah, but yeah, just goes to show like I feel like a lot of my influences, like I listen to a lot of metal
Hmm.
for sure, but I feel like most of my influences come from like non-metal sources. Um as far as like my like performance goes, to get back into that, it's like I think about Dylan, I think about Warren Zevon, I think about a lot of the like, great performers and songwriters of the 20th century. Um both and that very much marks my songwriting and my as well as my performance. Like I think back to Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder tour back in like 70, 75, 76 after Desire came out. Um, and he was basically just like screaming that entire tour. That's like all he did. He just got up there and screamed. And I think there's such like beauty in that. But yeah, no, it's Scott. Why did I start on that? Yeah, because I love Scott Walker.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like musicians. I very much appreciate musicians who start out with a certain sound and then go into something completely different. Like Scott
Hmm.
Walker started off as like made these incredibly lush, like beautiful Baroque pop records. Scott 2, 3, and 4, all absolutely incredible albums. And then in the like 90s and 2000s, he made some really absolutely terrifying industrial music. And that's why he sort of there's like a trilogy of albums, and then he parlayed that into his album with Sun. But yeah, who else? A Killing Joke. They're also a big favorite of mine in starting out as like an 80s new wave band. I mean, I was very much raised on new wave. That was like what my parents listened to. We listened to the Police, we listened to Talking Heads, we listened to Devo. And yeah, that was really some of those Killing Joke records from like when they reunited and started making like industrial metal. It's always industrial metal.
Yeah.
These
like
bands.
it's like what Ministry did.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
my dad likes Ministry, but he likes early Ministry
No,
before they went industrial.
I love that first Ministry album, and now they're touring it, which is fantastic.
Oh, I didn't know they're touring the first album. I just thought, another Ministry tour. Let's go.
Al is gonna have to shave his dreads and put on like a leopard skin suit or something. I don't know. But no, yeah, they're touring that album, which is like so fun. And what they're doing is that they're like kind of industrialifying it or metalifying it a little bit, to make it a little more in line with the sensibilities that define them for the rest of their.
That's something I might be into. Just like the date they're stopping in Boston is it's in the middle of so many shows. It wouldn't conflict, but I don't want to do it. But if there's like a good recording.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one fear I have about like buying concert tickets that are like so far out. Like, right now I think, what tickets do I have? I got shows that I'm like absolutely for certain 100% going to, like booked a million years in advance, or Patti Smith, one of my absolute heroes, probably the coolest person who's ever lived is Patti Smith. And she's touring Horses for the 50th anniversary, and I cannot wait for that. And my favorite band of all time, I'd be hard pressed. It's either this band or Streetlight Manifesto. So I'm a ska lunatic as well. But Rilo Kiley, Jenny Lewis's old band, they're getting back together, and they're the band that I've dreamed of getting back together for like my entire life. But yeah, those are two ones that I've earmarked. But I think we have we always find excuses to go to concerts. We go to local shows pretty regularly. We catch a lot of touring acts. Who did we catch? Jeff and I caught Alien Weaponry recently. Those guys are awesome.
I really want to see them. I didn't want to see Kerry King.
Oh no, don't worry. We left before Kerry King.
He had opened him and what was the name of the other band? Opened for Lamb of God and Mastodon when they came rolling through.
It was just Kerry King. It was Kerry King, and then
there was another band.
There was another band
before Kerry King.
Before Kerry King?
Was it Municipal Waste?
No, Municipal Waste was on this tour.
Yeah, so it was.
This was different tour. This
time around, it was Municipal Waste. It was Alien Weaponry, then Municipal Waste, then Kerry King.
Okay.
And so we had already gotten our Kerry King fill. It was. We had no problem leaving.
But Alien Weaponry, they're such a cool band.
They're so cool. Great guys. We got the chance to hang out with them.
Oh my god.
They're fabulous. They're all total mensches. Like
and they're hilarious.
They're hilarious.
Yeah. I'll say, like, having been a very online person who had a lot of online friends, like if I was to rank like the nicest countries just based on people I've met, never met me in Kiwi. Like New Zealand really they produce like the chillest people who will also like die for you.
I've always thought about at some point in my life I do kind of want to live somewhere else that is not the United States. I don't know for how long. But
forever.
Recently
it feels like forever.
Yep. Recently I've been eyeing New Zealand as a potential option, just because of how awesome it is. It's basically, the people are insanely cool, insanely kind, but it's also like Australia without all of the like eldritch horror creatures and like
no, they have some freaky ass animals.
I'd move to New Zealand because they have like in the cities They have a decent metal scene.
Yeah.
One of my favorite death metal bands is from New Zealand.
Would that be Ulcerate?
No, it's actually Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, but Ulcerate is incredible. But Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, like, they don't have the money to tour here, so they tried. They tried to glom onto another tour, and they got their visas rejected.
Yeah, there's so many random bands from like around the world who we'd absolutely kill to see live, like if they ever came to the United States, but we understand why for many reasons that would be like prohibitively difficult. Like we love one band. Where's Butcher from? Or Butcher Belgian?
Yes, they're Belgian.
Butcher.
Okay.
666 Goats Carry My Chariot. Banger of an album. Absolute steamer. And then their newest release is also fantastic. But I mean, they play a couple festivals in Europe, but there's a very slim chance that they'll come to the States. Who else? Voyager, another favorite of ours, Eurovision Legends Voyager. I understand that their lead singer, he's been publicly fighting cancer, so bless up to him, hopefully he'll get better soon so that they can come and play the United States.
It was really crazy that it's crazy in the first place that Australia does Eurovision to begin with. But having them do Eurovision specifically is really cool. I mean, they've been making like very bizarre metal music for like closer to 20 years now. I think more than that actually. They had a great song. It was a lot of fun. But one of my dream bills that they did, it was, I want to say back in like 2012 or 2014. It was Voyager, Carnival, and Deftones. And
that's crazy. That's insane.
I would have paid thousands of dollars for tickets to that show. Like, oh my god! And Carnival is like not really playing anymore. I think they also like one-off will do festivals, but they haven't released music in like.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened to Carnival.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite bands and like main influences when it comes to writing my own compositions. But I mean like them and Deftones, a band that I haven't seen yet. And I can't see when they're touring with Fleshwater and the Mars Volta because I have parent teacher conferences.
It's so over. It's so over.
I've been like trying to think of a way to get out of that early. I did see Fleshwater when they did that free show at Taffeta, which was like one of the coolest things I've ever been to. That they did it with Haywire, which a lot of fun. But
they did it with Haywire.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. I just have to cut it here. Did y'all see Haywire's tour announcement? People always comment like, "Oh, you should play here. You should play, Tewksbury. You should play like Wilbraham." And they're playing everywhere. They're doing like a 4-month-long tour, and they're playing like every single night. You need
I just saw the poster. This is
a magnifying glass to read the poster.
The poster is literally like.
Oh, I love not needing reading glasses.
It's like
this is insane.
It's like size 5 font on the poster, like for all the tour dates. I think they only take like Sundays off or something.
Exactly. No, Boston Catholic. It's the Lord's Day.
I don't know which day of the week was it, but Sunday sounds appropriate.
Yeah, no, they're.
I'm trying to see what the most.
I wanted to catch them live for so long.
I want to see what the most.
Boston like every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
I really.
They're going to Huntsville, Alabama. Like that's a win for It's like one of the few touring wins for Alabama.
And there's some hilarious comments like, they're like, "No Montana, heartbreak."
Mississippi and Alabama, like they need a win when it comes to when it comes to touring. I think it was like it was either Exorder or Exhumed. I always mix the two of them up when it comes to tour posters. One of them is doing a tour and like it skipped Boston, and I'm like, I wanted to cry. And I saw they had Morgantown, West Virginia, and I'm like, you know what? They can use the fun.
Sometimes I see like there's one band on Instagram that I keep getting Instagram reels for, like they're like the Funky Mummies, and they're like guys who dressed up in like mummy rags and play like funky music. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're coming to Boston. They're playing like Elgin, Illinois, and I'm like, all right, maybe the people of people of Central Illinois need to get funky ever so slightly more than I.
Yeah.
We'll play. Fossil's gonna play some wild places eventually.
Yep.
We're gonna play South Dakota. We're gonna play Alaska.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
no one goes to Alaska, and I just saw Cheyenne, Wyoming on this poster.
That rocks.
Yeah.
And then we'll go west and we'll hit Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia.
We'll be the second band to hit all 7 continents, ideally.
Hilarious.
But more seriously, what plans for the future do you have? Besides an album, you had mentioned album.
Yeah, I mean, album at some point in between, probably lots of singles, maybe even another quick like EP/tape situation. It's really like that's a meeting we're planning on having soon, is just like trying to iron that all out. But we did record recently at the record company. We did do some recording 2.5 weeks ago for a new single, which will be like that's our first, sort of like we went in the studio and actually did it single in 3 years almost. I mean, recording wise, more than that. Or I don't know how the math works, but yeah, it's around 2.5, 3 years.
It's been a little while. It felt really good to be back in the studio.
Yeah,
really fun.
We're hoping to make that a more frequent thing. Our prize for winning the Battle of the Bands that Sustain the Sounds actually was free studio time, which is huge. So we'll cook something up new and exciting for that. Other than that, we are going to be we're like slowly forming this little mini New York City show Super Slam thing. We have a gig booked. I don't know where the other one is. We recently hopped on a bill with this band called 300 USD. And
the other night, and so that's on one night, but on the Saturday, we're going to be playing Staten Island, baby. You heard it here first. May 31st, Fossil Mother Pug Saloon, Staten Island, New York, baby.
Yeah, talk about a place that needs some love from tourists.
Exactly. My folks are from the Northeast. I grew up in the great state of Dallas, Texas. But my folks are from New York. I'm a diehard Mets fan, so getting out to New York is going to be really fun.
That's pretty cool.
So we're hoping in that surrounding time we'll get to play, Brooklyn and Manhattan, and our original crazy plan was to actually do all 5 boroughs. Now it's been, it's like early March. I don't know if we're gonna get, like, for example, the weekend before that is Memorial Day weekend, so that's probably jam packed. But we'll try to get something to work because we've been really meaning to play out in New York City.
Well, there's a lot of Fossil Maniacs in New York, so we're excited to see them in person.
Oh, nice. I was wondering if you had a fan base out there, but if you do, it's awesome.
Yeah, we're trying to grow it. We're trying to grow it.
Yeah. No, that's pretty sick.
I'm not sure how many of our established Fossil Maniacs are going to come out to Staten Island, if anyone will come out to Staten Island. But
my boy Charles better come out. My homie from Tufts, Charles, he better show up to the
Charles.
Staten Island
if you're
show.
hearing this is
your order. This is like this is like an Attack on Titan when Eren like spoke to all the Eldians at the end, and it's like, it's spoilers. Spoilers for Attack on Titan, the end, if you haven't seen. Not really big spoilers, but like just like
spoilers for a manga that ended years ago.
Exactly. Yes. Spoilers for Star Wars.
Spoilers for the Bible.
Exactly.
He comes back. He comes back.
But no, it's voice of God us telling all the Fossil Maniacs, especially our buddy Charles, to come out to the Staten Island show, come out to our other show on June 1st. It's going to be a really, really rocking time, and we're going to hope to make a habit of going out to New York. Yep. We love Boston and we love New York, and we just want to play. Yeah. We want to play everywhere.
And the cities shouldn't be rivals. They should gently smooch each other.
Exactly.
Correct. Going back to like future plans for for Fossil is, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is just the importance of social media, and we're kind of like, I mean, part of me is excited to see how that will impact, fan base growth, but the other part of me is dreading having to do all the like recording and editing and having my face on the internet like
Yeah.
all the time. But it's looking like a step we're going to have to take sooner rather than later. We have stuff recorded.
Yeah.
We're trying to get enough backlog to go for like pretty much regular uploads, and oh my god, it is like,
No, getting my podcast account regular was just as harrowing because, like,
yeah,
at first I'm just like, it's like I only care about episodes, and like I don't want to show my face. And as it turns out, reels are really good for growth. So, and
Unfortunately,
and,
that's
like
the-
faces work for the algorithm, even if you're, even if you're like a 5 at most.
yeah.
Come on.
Y'all are at least 7s. You'd be pulling in so many.
We'll take 7s. We'll take
Thank you.
7s.
Are you sure this isn't a video podcast?
Nice. Any other final thoughts?
I think we kind of ran the gamut of things fossil related. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We're working really hard on getting new music out, new content out. And we're really excited to share a lot of the stuff that we've been working on with folks. We have a lot in the tank, and we're really excited to get it to a point where where people can hear it. And because that's what it's all about. We really want people to enjoy our stuff and be engaged with our music and our live performances, and come out to shows and show their support. Because we just want to make people have fun. I think that's kind of at the root of it for me, at least. And create interesting music and continue to grow as artists.
Yeah.
But it's all for the Fossil Maniacs. Everything we do.
Yep. I do kind of, I commend everyone who comes out to local shows, like all the familiar faces I see, because it's very nice to know that there are people who appreciate what the bands are doing, and it's very uncommon. I mean, considering how many people are in the city, right? The people who I see and who I recognize, and people involved in the bands, like that's a different type of like love for music that I think is really, really hard to come by. And I'm hoping that I continue to get closer with these people, and I'll be going to more shows with you mentioned Mollusk, right? The guys like Cortez, Kind, Miracle Blood. We've talked to them before. We're friendly with them. Like they do a lot of Earthlore too. Like they do a lot of like awesome stuff with uniting local metalheads. And for those of you who maybe like are listening and haven't really gone out to shows, start going to them, because you're going to meet some really awesome people, and see some crazy music. Like we have some great bands here.
Yeah, it's also like the easiest way to make friends, because if they're at one local show, they're probably going to be at quite a few more.
Exactly. Lots of familiar faces, which is really heartening. It's really fun, and it's really cool to see people show out for the local scene, which is really fun. And we're really grateful to be a part of the community.
Yeah, and thank you for being on, because supporting local scene is what I try to do with this show.
Absolutely.
You're putting in that work. You're
doing great work.
We notice it and we appreciate it
very much. So.
I'd like to thank Max and Jeff for this interview. And listeners, if you made it this far, maybe the lesson is to show your kids the music you grew up with. Expand their world and build a foundation for more than just a sick throwback metal group. Though for my generation, and probably most of my listeners, it'll probably mean that our kids try to recreate Creed. Yeah.
When Tom Jones is playing Foxwood, we going after that?
Talking about boomer music.
Rock with Tom Jones. Tom Jones is one of my heroes, man. Like,
no, it's not like it's Tom Jones. I'm just saying, like, I think we're kind of all old souls in this chat.
Remember when he was in Mars Attacks? That was fucking crazy. He was in Mars Attacks. That movie was so stupid. But Tom Jones was in it, so it couldn't have been that bad. Shout out Tom Jones. Shout out Naja River Podcast. That's the two things. That's what's gonna. I'm gonna have one earbud in listening to your next podcast episode, and the other earbud in listening to. It's not unusual to have fun with anyone.
Yeah. Stream Tom Jones, Free Palestine.
Exactly.
Rude.
Exactly. I want that written on my tombstone.